for a really long time, and I love reading to kids, and it was always a dream of mine to write a children's book.
The thing is, when you'll open this book and you'll see that the story captures your heart, right? It captures the journey of children that are going through different emotions. Willoughby is going through that first day of school, so she has all these different things happening, right? She's trying to initiate play, she's trying to make friends, she's embarrassed about, messing up some blocks, and so it really just goes through the process, and you can connect all of those things to any emotion that kids face.
Ever since I was 8 years old, that's been my dream. I used to write in spiral notebooks, and I'd pass them around to my friends, and I always had my head in the clouds when I was supposed to be doing chores. So yes, always wanted to be an author.
Trials and tribulations of friendship and family, that's a life sentence, So as adults, we're always dealing with how to navigate tricky situations, and so in those ways I think adults would resonate with a lot of the themes in the book.
He won a total of 14 Stanley Cup rings as a production line did. Pretty significant.
Yeah.
And then when I started interviewing these guys and a lot of people around them, I realized that there's some really good stories here to tell, and that's what the book is about.
So this picture is of characters in the book. We have our main character, Ailsa, and this is her mother, Iona, and this is the arch for the first chapter where they arrive at Rowan Cottage, where most of the story also takes place. This is the original watercolor painting that I did, and so it ended up being one of the first illustrations.
I would say the inspiration really began, I think, about 8 years ago now, and that coincides with when I had my first child. So I have two girls, and my oldest daughter has a lot of different special needs. She has some neurodivergent diagnoses, she has some cognitive disabilities as well, and I wrote the story with her as the inspiration, but it's for her and it's also for her younger sister as well, because I want her to be able to see herself in the story, to know that everyone is different inside as well as outside, and that's not anything that's ever bad, right, wrong. You are, amazing how you are.
So in the book, she's Brett Rollinger. In the movie, she's Alex. So they've changed a few things. But basically, a young woman, Alex, her mother dies and sends her on a quest to complete the life list that she had written when she was a young girl. Dreams that she no longer thinks she wants. And that's in order to get her inheritance.
So I am a grandmother of 5 grandchildren, and so my oldest grandson is Braylon, and Cam is inspired by Braylon and his personality, and the goal is to write about all of my other grandchildren as well. So it's such a joy, so exciting. He has a shining personality, very kind and caring, and that's what you'll find out about Cam in this book.
This novel was 20 years in the making, so I was in the midst of getting to write a bunch of nonfiction, actually, about, themes in different great stories and great movies for teenagers. And the seed of this book came to me and got planted in my heart. And it was, over time, I would just keep working on it. And eventually, Eva's story, and it's a story of a 14-year-old teenager who meets her grandmother in England for the first time, really began to take shape. And I knew it was time to make the switch from 12 nonfiction books to fiction.
I wrote a book about the kind of broad history of Black utopian communities and thought. So it ranges from the period after the American Civil War to the present. It's a mix of history and memoir. A lot of the book is about this amazing Black countercultural church that started in Detroit, the Shrine of the Black Madonna, which started in the 1950s but became especially big in the late 1960s. So it was a way to talk about the meaning of the Black counterculture and attempts to carve out spaces of hope and dignity across American history.
The book is a humor book, really, about all the little things that you learn in life, big and small. But I have to say, the greatest lesson I learned actually came from my dad, who was a waiter in our dining room. And, a lot of parents will say to kids, don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
My dad said the exact opposite. He said, talk to strangers. And who he was talking about were the people sitting in our dining room. Because my dad was a kid from Chinatown. He never went off to college. He lived his whole life there. But he had this amazing ability to just talk to anybody about anything. And so anytime he met somebody who he thought had a cool job or was just really interesting, he'd call all 6 of us kids to run over and barrage these customers with questions of what do you do for a living? How did you get your job? How much money do you make? And so this idea of being able to talk to people who are different than you, to ask questions when you don't know the answer, or to even ask for help when you need help, are just little life lessons that I think have really guided me throughout my life.
I wanted to inspire kids to overcome their fears.
I like that. And Trey?
Well, really, it was me and my dad that wrote this book, and I was little, so my mom, she was like getting bored of my dad reading boring books to me. So my mom was like, why don't you just write your own book? So here we go, we got it.
There you go.